I'm going to tell you about the story about how I experienced God and the Holy Spirit and how it's impacted my life ever since that moment happened. Now, I really did try to film the video at the very spot this morning, but it just wasn't meant to be. Multiple takes, people walking by, it just wasn't happening whatsoever. So we're doing it now, and I'm very excited to share it with you. Now, I've only actually told this story once before, and it was to, at my time, the group for when I was preparing for my baptism. So we'd meet every week, go over the Bible, what to expect in the baptism, what it means, and we generally tend to share a lot of stories. We get to know each other and how our relationship with God and our process of returning to faith was developing. And I decided to tell this story, but even in the moment of when I told it, I never actually got the true impacts of it across. I never really got to fully get my words out. Me and sort of how I've grown up, just how I'm sort of and what I'm working through at the moment, I've always struggled with what goes on up here and how I'm able to convey that into my words. I think that's why journaling is such a big thing for me at the moment. I think I must be writing like 4 pages a day. Like there's just so much going on in my head that I just can't wait to write down. So journaling has been big for me. And when it does come to certain situations, there are still instances, and I'm working on it, where I do struggle to get my words out. So at the time of me telling this story, I definitely got it across. The group understood it and they felt it because we was talking about the ways in which the Holy Spirit affects people. I think we were studying Pentecost at the time, or at least that time of year, and I was happy to actually speak on it, but there was a lot that I left unsaid. So right here, right now, I want to tell you what happened. Now, in terms of time of year, it was a dry day. It was sort of like early on in the year, and at that time, I wasn't actually consciously committed to faith. I hadn't actually made that definitive choice to go to church and say, this is what I want to do, this is my new calling. So at the time, it was all very new to me. Now, my actual journey into faith was actually one through quantum physics, through science, through spirituality, through esoteric. And how I always explain it is the more that I searched for reason, for logic, for answers, the more it actually pointed me towards God. Everything that I've studied always points towards this cosm of being in which everything is created and built from. And that if you want something in life, you've essentially got to align with it, you've got to understand it, you've got to study it, you've got to become aware of yourself. All of these things that I found just pointed towards God. So at the time of when this all actually happened, I was reading a book called Joe Dispenza, which is Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself. Very, very good book, even from my position now where I'm rooted in my faith. Phenomenal book. Really, really good study into the mind. I think all Christians, humans in and of themselves can benefit from studying the mind, understanding how it works, and becoming consciously aware of what we think about on a day-to-day basis. It's going to better equip you for temptations. It's going to allow you to be rooted in the decisions that you make. So that was the book that I was reading at the time, and it really just opened up my eyes to energy, understanding vibrations, understanding how aspects of the universe work, at least how I believed at the time. And it really just helped me navigate through day-to-day situations. I was going through a lot in terms of business, with work, loads of stuff going on, and I just was going through this phase of daily meditating, started journaling, I just started becoming aware of energy. So instead of seeing people as people and things as things, I would be thinking, what is this vibration like trying to tell me? What are my emotions right now? And how is that forming my energy in motion? So I had this immense level of awareness. We'll call this like stage one, right? So it's a bit linked into the Celestine prophecy now. So this stage of awareness was really what allowed me to be open to do this, because right here, right now, I could get you, or I could get your friend, or I could get one of my friends. We could bring you all to the right same spot. Let's just say there's 4 of us. All 4 of us would have a completely different experience because our perception changes. How well we receive information is determined on our level of consciousness and if we're willing to accept it. So the reason why I have to tell you this is because I only saw it and experienced it because of my awareness, because of my level of consciousness and willingness to actually see it. Think about the story of Moses when he saw that burning bush. At first he doubted and he said, surely, not me. But then he stopped resisting, he let go, and he took on that burden, as did a lot of the prophets, as did a lot of the people that God called upon. They resisted at first, and then when they let go of their own, they got out of their own way, it then happened. So the story and the day in and of itself, it was very, very simple. I'd woke up really early one morning. I'm an early riser anyway, so my day starts at like 3:30. But then on this day, it was a Saturday morning, right? So I'd woke up about 4 or 5, and my objective was I wanted to do a 20k walk. Just a nice long walk. Wanted to study. Again, I was doing a lot of Joe Dispenza stuff, so the idea was that I was pretty much just meditating the entire way. I had my headphones on and I was just listening to a certain hertz of music. I don't remember the number, it was just frequency based stuff. And I was thinking and I was just walking along, and I'd gone, what's interesting, and this is really interesting, I had gone the entire way there, so I'd done about 10k there and 10k back. The entire way there, I saw nothing. I was just walking, it's a really nice walk, it's called an estuary, so it's like a patch of grass or a path of grass, and then on your right you've got like a riverbed that opens up into the local river. So I was walking along, nice weather, it was early on in the year, so it was quite cold, really fresh. I just had a hoodie on, continued walking, was just being with my thoughts, really had an appreciation for the sun, it was rising, so it had been about 4 or 5 a.m, depending on the time of year, and I continued walking right the way along, and I just walked to a point until I couldn't walk no more because it was really muddy, marshy, and I just wasn't in the mood to continue going further on. I did have an objective to get to the Humber Bridge, but I just didn't end up going there. So then I began to make my way back. By this point, I was a little bit tired, wasn't really, I was just ready to go home, right? I'd sort of ticked off my objective, I'd done 10k there, so therefore the only way that I could do it was by going back, which would get me to my 20k walk. And then I was going back and I started to just become a little bit more aware, right? So by this point, to my left now, you've got the river. You've got the Humber River, that's what I can look out to. And then on the right, you see a couple of car parks, the train station nearby. And what was really interesting, this is going on the way back, so I've seen everything, supposedly, but what happens now is I come across this lake of sorts. Now bearing in mind, I had researched this estuary, I'd looked on Google Maps, and all I saw was grass and path on maps and the estuary. No one had ever told me that there was a lake there whatsoever, no one. I didn't see it on the maps, I didn't see it nowhere. This was a completely new discovery for me. And when I tell you I saw this lake, it was a big lake, big enough where you could swim across it, and it was a lake, right? As objective as it is, it was a lake. But what's interesting was that I was the only one around. Usually on that estuary you get people walking their dogs. I was the only one around, and I saw this, and you had this big sort of like bushy grass type thing, and then I had to walk past it to see it, so I had to like discover it, if that makes sense. And when I looked at it, the water was the most stillest water I had ever seen. And I want to tell you about my emotions first. So I'd seen this, when I saw something, I felt something. So I went through this field of emotions in a really, really, really quick period of time. So the first time I saw this, I was terrified of it. I was really, really scared because I'd never seen it. I'd done the Google searches, I looked at the map, I'd tell people I was doing this. Nobody ever told me that there was a lake there. So at first I disbelieved it. I was really scared of it. I was like, surely this can't be real, I'm hallucinating, because I've been doing the frequency of music, I've been spiritual there, and I thought that I'd tapped into like some next level of consciousness, and I convinced myself at first it wasn't real. And then I sort of calmed down and I started to look at it, and this water was just incredibly still. I've seen oceans, I've seen other lakes, I've seen canals, and I've never seen water as still as this in my entire life. It was perfect. It was completely tranquil, and because of the time of day and the time of year, there was like this mist coming off of it as if it was alive. The thing was moving. So then I started to appreciate its beauty, and then I was in awe of it. So I'd gone through fear, I'd gone through disbelief, now I was in awe, now I was in love with it, and I started to appreciate it. So I'm going through this spectrum of emotions, and I didn't really know what to think. There was no words exchanged, I was just in the presence of it. And I remember thinking at the time that I'm not in the presence of something human right now. I'm not in the presence of something human made. It's not a car, it's not a building, it's not a window, it's not another person. I'm just in the presence of something much greater than I am right now. And I remember feeling really open at the time. I felt connected to it in the sense that it's just something so beautiful. Like it had the ability to control so much of my emotions that I just felt connected to it. And I looked at it and I still had that fear of, I still had a fear of it, right? So I must have been about 20 meters away from it, so enough to walk, but then you had to go downhill to get to it. And there was a part of me, still to this day, I've never actually gone back and seen it, there was a part of me that thought about going down, because I'd have to go down the grass bed and then across where it was just like a flat level of grass, and then I'd reach the lake. And I thought about going to see it, and I was very apprehensive of it. Even though objectively it is just a lake, I never actually went to it. And I just remember looking at it from afar, and then I started to picture myself in this. I started to picture myself sitting there. I started to picture myself around it, and then I got this real sense of euphoria, of just contentment. I have another video coming out about this. I have a very funny thing about the word happiness, but I didn't feel happy at any time experiencing this. I just remember thinking, this is the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. I'm terrified of it. I am in awe of it. I know that it's much bigger than I am. And I just remember feeling this wave of emotions with it. And after that, I came away from it. I never actually told anyone about it for a good month or so. Never told my partner about it for a long time, and obviously I told my Bible study and my baptism group at the time. Coming away from that, I knew that I was in the presence of something greater. I always thought that you had humans and you had working class, upper class, rich class, wealthy humans. I almost thought that there was just a level of humans, and that was really it. We build the big buildings, we build the fast cars. There's not really anything better than us. But in that moment, I actually realised that I was in the presence of something greater than mankind had ever seen, greater than I could even comprehend, for the fact that it could control so much of my emotions. So coming away from that, I had this even bigger sense of awareness, the fact that there are things out there that I haven't seen, there are things out there that I haven't experienced, and that gave me the sense of openness, because when you're open, you learn to let go, because you understand that there's more that you can receive than there is that you can actually give. So it helped me to actually understand new information, navigate situations, and the most interesting bit, because you have to remember, all of this, I wasn't actually a man of faith. I hadn't consciously said, I am a man of God. Now looking back, this is where God comes into play, and he actually sheds a light. He just casts his light. He breathes onto everything, right? Now I understand, and it was at that moment we were discussing the Holy Spirit, that was in fact the Holy Spirit. I was in the presence of God, the Holy Trinity, right? It was just perfect. It was beautiful. It was the fact that it was almost like being in someone's beautiful house, right? So I didn't even feel worthy of being there at the time. But the idea now is that I realised that is God's presence, to be in the presence of something bigger, to be in the presence of something that is just so amazing. And essentially what it's allowed me to do now is just appreciate the universe. This morning I journaled. I had a really good time out there, felt content. Even now I just feel relaxed. Being in nature, being in God's presence is something that will serve you very well. Now, I've told you one story. There's been other instances. There's probably going to be other instances for you that I can't quite comprehend. I told you this because sometimes God will never talk to you through a literal voice. You're not going to hear a voice in your head. Some people do. I've never heard it. But the idea is that if you can let go and make yourself open, you'll see things that you would never seen before. So I would love to hear your thoughts on this. Drop a comment. I would love to answer any questions on this, and maybe I'll have to tell you even more about it when perhaps there's another level of consciousness.